I really fell in love with basketball at a younger age and kind of stuck with that path. And through my high school career, I knew I wanted to be around the game and I knew I wanted to be a coach. And so the best way to be a coach, a high school coach, is be a teacher. And so those things kind of came hand in hand for me. And it was kind of a thing I knew I wanted to do even in high school. So learned as much as I could about the game and had some really good coaches and mentors growing up, which allowed me to learn more about the game and pursue that path and prepare myself for coaching.
What's up, everybody? It's Off the Field with Isaiah Robinson. We got a special one for you guys today. We're here with the online coaching guru, owner of Schmidt Performance, Coach Jeff Schmidt. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Isaiah. Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, man, thanks for coming on. It's going to be a great one. I can't wait.
Great. Thank you.
So for the people that don't know, can you talk to me about your journey? And I know you're huge in the coaching world, have experience for over 15 years of coaching. So can you talk a little bit how you even got into coaching and the path that it got you to here?
Yeah, growing up, I fell in love with the game of basketball around fifth grade. I played all bunch of sports, but I really fell in love with basketball at a younger age and kind of stuck with that path. And through my high school career, I knew I wanted to be around the game and I knew I wanted to be a coach. And so the best way to be a coach, a high school coach, is be a teacher. And so those things kind of came hand in hand for me. And it was kind of a thing I knew I wanted to do even in high school. So learned as much as I could about the game and had some really good coaches, mentors growing up, which allowed me to learn more about the game and pursue that path and prepare myself for coaching. And so after high school, I started coaching right away. I was 18 years old. I was playing college basketball, coaching, had a job, going to school, all all within a couple years there. So I played at a school called Fresno City College, a junior college there, and then I went on to play at Cal State Monterey Bay. And after my playing career, jumped right back into high school coaching as an assistant for a while under several really good coaches in Fresno, California. And, just kind of moved my way up to be a head coach after a few years. Did that for 10 years as a head coach. And then in between there, I spent 2 years as a college coach back in where I played in Fresno City College for 2 years. And recently, the last 5 years, 5.5 years, I've owned my own basketball training business called Schmidt Performance. So I stepped down from the head coaching world and spent a little bit more time with my boys. I got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old that I now coach their teams as well. And so it's been a great journey for me. I love the game. I love teaching. I love coaching. And you never know what your journey is going to be. You think you know, and you think you have it all planned out, but it never works the way you think it's going to work. But I wouldn't change anything. I've learned so much along the way, the ups and the downs and the good and the bad. But coaching is something I was blessed and born to do.
I love it. So you made the transition from coaching at a school and to now owning your own performance, your basketball performance training. So how was that transition? Like, what skills were you able to take over to the performance, and what skills did you have to learn to even create and gain more clients in your own business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did not want to be a trainer. I did not, that was not my plan. And I wanted to be around the game. And
Mm,
so I just took what I knew. I'm good with coaches, have to be good with relationships. They have to be good with the players. You got to be organized. You got to know your stuff. You got to know the game. And I thought I knew the game, but I had no idea. I'm learning. I'm a curious guy by nature. I'm hungry to learn. I'm trying to always get better and improve, be more effective and efficient. And I have just learned, if where I was to start 5 years ago with my training business to where I'm at now is night and day. It's completely
mm,
different. I think I just basically said, I'm coach. I'm just going to teach what I know to these players and kind of just see how it goes. And it's just kind of evolved, with just studying more about the game, how to be more efficient with the training and the workout, how kids learn, how kids build skill and skill acquisition. And it's been a great journey. I've met a lot of people along the way, worked with some great kids, some great parents, and it's been a blessing in my life, but it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. I've messed up so many times, but I think that's the beauty of it. I have the autonomy to kind of run it the way I like and the way I see fit, and kind of create my own schedule around my family, which is my number one priority and
Mm.
in life. And it's been great. And I'm still learning. I'm still getting better. It's not perfect, but I really enjoyed this whole journey, where it started and where it is now.
I love it. And I feel like you just touched on an important message. It's like starting somewhere, right? Everybody feel like they have to start when it's perfect and when they get everything set up, but you go as long as you grow, right? So what type of skills did you develop from even getting clients, right? Because you had to go out and find the kids yourself. It's funny, I was just doing research yesterday, like how many kids or how many schools are in the area that I can tap into. So like what are some different various ways that you was getting clients, or you just found new networks to tap into?
Well, really, I had kind of the things stacked against me. We just moved from California to Colorado. I now live in Fort Collins, Colorado. And so I was only here for a couple years, didn't really know a lot of people. So I had to go out and just meet people, go to games, talk to coaches, go to practices, talk to parents, talk to players, and kind of build it that way. I started with one client, someone we knew, and just kind of grew from there. But yet you have to be out there. I feel the best way to build is to just be open to learn. And also, your best marketing is what you're doing and who you are, the word of mouth. So parents talking, other players talking, you got to have results with what you're doing, but your best marketing is word of mouth. And that's kind of really what it's been for me, to start with one player. And last summer, I think we got up to about 85 clients in that 5 years. So, you know, that's great, but building those relationships is the most important thing, and doing a good job. You got to know your stuff, and they can sniff that out right away if you don't. But to me, it's really about getting kids better, improving, and that has to be that has to be your underlining goal, is to improve players and get them better. So that's kind of where it's gone for me, and it's been a fun journey, man.
I love it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw that you have an online training course. Is that
Yeah. So,
okay?
yep, I do. So we have an app that we use for players who aren't with us in person. They use the app. There's drills, workouts, a lot of information built around basketball, like nutrition, performance,
Mhm.
mental performance. There's a lot of different things on there that we can add some value to our training that others don't. And so that's just a kind of added bonus that they can use, because they're not always with us every single day. So to have something that they can kind of do as homework, and just improve on their own when they're not with us in person, has been really good. But it's work. You got to put it together. It's
Mhm.
there's a organization called Coach IQ. And they've been really, really good for me and my business. They provide a lot of different services, scheduling, payments, the app itself, and
Mhm.
they're always there to help if I have questions or need anything. And that's been a huge addition to my business. And Isaiah, to be honest, I'm not a business guy. I have no
Mhm.
background in business until I started this. And so it was all just learning. It was,
Mhm.
seeing what other people do, which could be good and bad. What are people pricing things, just trying to see what others are doing. And then I kind of tried to figure out what works for me, what's best for me, and kind of make adjustments accordingly as I went on. So you don't have to be a businessman to be an entrepreneur. You just have to have a passion, and you have to have patience, and you have to be able to have some grit when things aren't going your way, because it's easy when things are going great, but when things aren't working or something's not right, to find a solution. And I think that's the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to do, is you call the shots. If things aren't working, it's on you. If things are going great, it's on you. And you have to find that business savvy to figure things out as you go. And I've read a lot of books. I've asked a lot of questions. I've talked to other successful business people, and just learned along the way. I wanted it to work. And so when you're trying to be successful, you'll figure it out if you really care about it and you have a passion for it. So
Love it. So if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
wow. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
hard question to answer, but I would say, the thing, some of the problems I had at the beginning was I was trying to please so many people, and I was trying to, make sure it worked for everybody, and you just can't do that. And
Mm.
so saying no earlier would have been better, but now that I'm kind of established and I have a system in place that I believe in and a business model that I believe in, I can say no, and that's pretty powerful. So saying no earlier would have been better, and changing things, changing my schedule, changing things around. And I got to the point where it's like, that's not why I started doing this. And so saying no earlier would have been a lot better for my health, the business itself, my family. And so I had to learn how to say no and kind of stay within what my plan was and what my business model was.
I love it. I love it. So the next segment is brought to you by Off the Field Financial. What I found out is that most people are looking for ways to make more money without having to get another job. So Off the Field Financial is a financial services agency that specializes in life insurance, annuities, and investments. We teach people like you how they can make a lot of money using our special four-step system without having to get another job. So these next questions are going to be tailored towards Off the Field Financial. Do you know what the rule of 72 is?
The rule of 72, I do not.
Okay, cool. So the rule of 72 is going to show you how long it would take for your money to double if you invest in it. So 72 divided by the interest rate, and that's how long it's going to take for your money to double. So like if you have it sitting in the bank, the average bank is about 2%. So it's going to be 72 divided by 0.2%. Well, divided by point 0.2, and it'll give you 300 years for your money just to double if it's just sitting in the bank. So that's the rule of 72. Do you know the difference between term and whole life insurance?
Term and whole life insurance, the difference? No,
Mhm.
no, I
Cool,
don't. I
cool,
can't
cool.
say I do.
Okay, cool. So term is just temporary, right? Probably it's between 15 and 30 years that you're covered for that period of time. Whole life is your cover for your whole life, but the whole life builds cash value. So a lot of businesses like Disney World or McDonald's, they use whole life insurance to grow their business because the thing about whole life insurance is it's invested into the S&P 500. That's the top 500 companies like Apple, Tesla, but you can't take a loss in it. It's guaranteed that you can't take a loss. So not only is it you can't take a loss, you're not going to be taxed on it as well when you pull from it. So a lot of companies they just fund their IULs and they can pull from it whenever they want to, tax free without having to get penalized. And when they pull from it, now you have the cash liquid, but it's still an account showing growing interest, like the cash is still there. So that's a cool tool that people use as well. And the next question is, do you have a retirement plan yet?
Retirement plan? No, I have
Mhm.
retirement coming eventually one day.
Yeah.
I don't have a plan yet, but between my teaching job and my business now, it's probably going to roll over to my business eventually. Everything. I feel like I have two jobs right now, but I don't have a retirement in my training business, but I do with my teaching job.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. And that's also what we show and help people as well. Using retirement while they're active within their business and within their job, whatever one you do, right? And we just teach people different retirement skills, even college funding for kids, and just a lot of different things that the IUL or a lot of different financial strategies to put people in a better place without with cutting the time down. You
Yeah,
can get retired. I help people retired at the age of 40. I know some people retired at 70. So
right.
that's what we really big on. Now getting back into the interview, we're going to switch it over to some current events. Should players get NIL deals? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. I wish I had an NIL deal when I was playing.
All right.
No, but absolutely they should. I think the NIL it's a slippery slope. I think it's changing and it's getting more players have more power now. They have more say, more options within that NIL realm. And I just think it feels like the wild, wild west a little bit. There's not a lot of restrictions, there's not a lot of rules. I think eventually they're going to try and have to figure it out,
Mhm.
whether that goes to like contracts for players. Players have a organization, the coaches have an organization, or the schools have an organization, and it's a kind of a bargaining agreement, like the ranks, because pretty much once you start getting paid, you're a professional. So things around the NIL need to be. There has to be contracts. There has to be agreements, and both sides have to live up to those agreements, or the contract is void. It's just like an NFL contract. So, and maybe there's incentives, but I just think right now it's a free for all. There's not a lot of it's just word of mouth. Say, yeah, I'm going to pay you this, and if they don't pay you, you see players sitting out now, coaches holding back money. I just think it's a wild, wild west, and it's kind of has to get regulated a little bit for it
Mhm.
to work better. But I definitely think players need to be paid, and they should be paid for sure.
Definitely. And it, like you said, the Wild Wild West, like I know now coaches, if their booster has more money than another school, they gonna use that to their advantage. So now it's like Georgia competing with a school like Maryland. The funds don't add up, but the players are going where the money's at. So it's kind of the coaches and just the competing aspect now, because now it's just all about money, right? You see kids switching schools all the time. It's funny. I know a guy. He played at a university, and then he transferred to Georgia, and it was a D1 school. He had a lot of playing time, and he transferred to Georgia just because they was paying him more money. He was like, "Oh yeah, the bag here. I'm gonna just go here." Now it's like,
Right. Yeah, kids aren't transferring, going to different schools because they don't like the school. I
mm-hmm,
just saw something from Rick Pitino yesterday. He said something after the game. They beat Rick Pitino coaches at St. John's, and they just played Seton Hall. And Coach Holloway, he's a successful coach. Players love playing for him, but they don't have a lot of money at Seton Hall, and
mm-hmm,
St. John's does. They've given Rick Pitino a huge amount of money to go establish his roster, and guys are leaving schools they love. They're leaving coaches they love because but they're taking the money, because how could you say something to a player who's trying to take more money at a different place? And so players aren't going to schools because they like the school. They're not going to schools because they like the coach. They're going to schools because they're getting paid more.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, especially right now for coaches. It's like, I've worked with this player for 2 or 3 years, or even a year. I really like this player. The player likes the school. The player likes the coach, likes his teammates, but he's 3 times the amount at this other school. They're going to leave.
mm-hmm.
That's tough, man. That's the world we live in right now. That's the NIL, and it's just interesting to me. Things are different. Things are changing quick.
Yeah. It's gonna be exciting to see how it follows up these in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely.
so as a coach, is it your job to get players offers, or is it your job to prepare them for the next level?
Wow. You're talking college, right? I think both. I think you get players better. It's hard though. I would not think that a coach gets into coaching to make a player better to send them off to a different coach. Like I just don't see it, coaches thinking that way. But you also know that's part of the business. If a player gets really good, they're going to be gone, especially if they're at a smaller school.
Mhm,
You're losing them. So you want to win, I guess, for that period of time. You have these players every year. It's just a 1 year deal, really.
mhm,
You might be good 1 year. The next year, you don't have as many good players. You're not going to be good. And it has nothing to do sometimes with the coach or the scheme. It's just you got to have players to win. Coaches look a lot better when they have good players around them. And it really comes down to money now. Can you raise enough money to keep a lot of these players? And I think the good ones are going to leave these smaller schools no matter what.
mhm,
If you can, you keep those other players. Do you have enough money to keep the ones who could keep around, and then just try to find the next player that can come in from a smaller school to go to your school and play? But
mhm,
man, it's changing, and you got to adapt as a coach. But I always feel like you need to make better. You need to make players better people, and you got to make them better players. That's your job. And just, I think it looks good when you're good coming from your school. So hopefully that would make a guy at a D2 or a smaller Division 1 want to come in, because they know they're going to grow even if you have them for 1 year. these 1-year contracts. It's like year in, year out. You just got to take it for what you got every year and hope for the best.
Right. And people don't realize that 1-year contracts, like college, is a 1-year deal. Some people think, okay, I just signed my letter and said I'm there for 4 years. No, like you can get cut any year. So keep touching little bases on that. I know you've been in the college realm a little bit. What do you feel like a player needs to do to not make it to the second year? Anything that you've seen?
As far as trying to keep players in for more than 1 year.
Yeah, and trying to
Yeah.
keep it, yeah.
There are some schools that have zero turnover. Like Marquette is the top 10 team in the country in basketball. They had zero. They don't even use the portal. They've had zero transfers. I
Wow.
think they have enough money to keep who they have. It might be who they recruit as well, like the character of the player, trying to get to know the player, what they're getting in for. Are they getting it in for just to make as much money as possible? Or are they trying to get an education, a good experience, so after they're done with college, they have a career. I don't know if it's going to make a player last. It's last for 25, 30 years, So what are you going to do after the money isn't there? And eventually the NCAA is going to have to figure that out. And so I think there are some teams who have some continuity, guys that come back, they're just not there for 1 year. And then there's other teams that it's a completely different roster. They got all new players. And so that's kind of what you're going to see. And I think goods will do their best if they have the funds to keep good players around. But it's like the haves and the have-nots, man. There's a top layer of schools that can't have enough money to get whoever they want. Then there's the kind of the middle teams who have money, but maybe not as much as the top tier teams. And then you got the low in Division I who are just trying to raise money to just get a couple players here and there. So it feels like levels within Division I, schools that have a ton of money, schools who don't have a budget at all, really. And that's kind of hard to compete, man. It's kind of hard to compete. Football's probably, you can see it the most with football.
Now, if you was the Pelicans head coach, would you trade Zion Williamson?
From what I think from the outside looking in, my opinion, I don't think the Pelicans have gotten in return what they thought they were going to get with Zion. Whether that's, his fault or not, doesn't really matter. I think they were expecting more from him, playing more, contributing more, being more of a franchise player. And I don't think he's really shown that to this point. So they have lost a lot of games this year. So I don't know. They have to make a decision here pretty soon. Are they going to franchise him and keep him long term, or are they going to try and get something for him, some draft picks, and try to start over? I know they're trying to get rid of some other players around him as well, but I just don't think we expected from Zion. You saw some flashes here and there over like a little span before he got hurt and so many injuries. But if I were the GM, I'd trade. I'd try to get some draft picks, and I'd try to get hopefully some good players in the draft to kind of build it just sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't with players. Not every player that you draft a high lottery is going to be a great player. You look at all the previous drafts, you might get 2 or 3 really all-stars and some other guys who just never panned out. So he has a chance still. I still think he can be good in the league, but I don't think the Pelicans have gotten what they wanted out of Zion at this point. I don't know how many years has he been in the league?
Yeah, I want to say he's been in 3 years, but only played like 20 or 30 games too, because he's always hurt and something's always going on with him.
Something's always up, man. Something's always up. And I just think at a certain point, you got to cut ties eventually. Unless he shows that, hey, he can play a whole season without getting hurt.
Exactly.
But it's really not just the getting hurt. It's just producing. He's not producing. Spent all this money on him and he's on the bench. And now they can't add to the roster. And so they're suffering. And I think eventually it's about it's a business. It's not personal. You just have to move on at a certain point. I think they're going to have to eventually.
I feel the same way for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the next segment is going to be the hot seat question of the interview. You ready?
Here we go.
There you go. What is the most memorable coaching story?
Wow. I think what stands to me, it's really personal. My father passed away when I was coaching a team. This was about 8 to 10 years ago. And they all showed up to his funeral. And they're sitting right there where I could see them. And that to me is kind of what it's all about, man. Like the character of kids that I was coaching, for them to do that, they didn't have to be there to support me. That said everything and kind of what we were doing with those kids character wise. I'll always remember that. and that has a special place in my heart. And that to me is a coaching story that stood out. They were just there to support me, and it was pretty memorable for me. But yeah, that was kind of tugged at my heart for sure.
I love it, man. If
Yeah.
you could invent a holiday, what would it be called and how would it be celebrated?
Wow. This is the hot seat. Man, how about like kindness day, doing
Mm,
something kind for somebody else,
mm,
It's like a day that maybe it's a half day and you have to do something kind for somebody else. And man, what would the world be like if everyone did something kind on one day? What that day would look like, People do it, a lot of people do it every day, but some people don't do it at all. I think just having a day where you're not yourself and you're thinking about others and then doing something kind for someone else that helps them, that would be a great day, you
I
know?
like
We
that.
have
Yeah,
we
I
have
like
Labor
that.
Day and a work day, but how about a day where we're just doing something kind for somebody to help
Mm,
somebody else, you know?
mm. Yeah, that would
Intentionally.
be beautiful. That'd be beautiful. I
Yeah.
like that. What's the most adventurous thing you ever done?
Man, I went on a, zip line. I mean,
Mm.
that was pretty crazy,
Mhm.
pretty adventurous, and the first time was the heights, but I did it, and then eventually my oldest son did it with us as well, which was
What's
pretty
that?
cool. Yeah.
Were you scared when you tried it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was all kinds of emotions going on.
Mm,
Life's about overcoming fears sometimes, and there's fears going to always be there, but we can either embrace it or we can just run away from it. We don't grow unless we embrace it and we run through it. And so I just told myself, you got to do this, man. You got to do it. I
mm,
don't care how scary, you got to do it. And I did it with my wife, and there's a zip line at Catalina Island in California. There's a
mm.
little island there off the coast of Long Beach, and they have a long zip line. It was great, man. And now I do it all the time when I go back over there.
Oh, it's not okay.
Yeah.
So your fears, it's a triumph.
You ever did a zip line?
Yeah, I've done zip lining before. I only done it one time, but I would do it again for sure.
Yeah, it's
Don't
good.
get
It's fun,
one
man.
thing I won't do, but zip line I'll definitely do again for sure.
Yeah, jumping out of a plane with a
Mhm.
parachute. I'm not doing those.
Yeah,
No,
for
no, no, no. There's a line. I think I won't cross. Like,
sure.
but zip line was good.
Yeah, that for sure. Well, I appreciate you for coming on today, Coach Schmidt. Anything you want to say to your fans and supporters out there?
If you guys have any questions, it could be anything about basketball coaching, entrepreneurship, my business, anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, Schmidt Performance. Also, you can email me, schmidtperformance@outlook.com. And I'd love to share anything and help anyone out there who needs anything. And God bless everybody. Thank you for having me on, Isaiah. And that was fun.
All right, cool, cool. Thank you for coming again for sure.
All right. Thank you.